Welcome to today's video. Today we'll be talking about RuPaul's Drag Race Season 16, Episode 5's Power Rankings. Who are the true contenders for the crown this year? If you haven't seen any of my videos before, this is what I take into account when I do my power rankings. First off, the track record, because RuPaul's Drag Race fans are obsessed with track record. They think that it's the complete reason why a queen should win at the end of the day, not taking into account that the judges might be biased, but that's another story. Next, the confessionals. How often are we hearing from this queen? How often do we know what this queen thinks of the season and of the other queens? And then finally, just the vibes. What kind of vibes are the fans and are we getting from these queens? Do we really think they are a contender for the crown? So at that point, let's just go ahead and get started. And before we do, we have to talk about our fallen queen, a mandatory meeting. It's a sad story that we lost Amanda at this point because I really thought her story was heating up in the last episode with the drama that we saw between her and Plain Jane. And I thought we would maybe get resolution to that story. But we didn't. We didn't hear anything about how Amanda and Plain could resolve their problems or maybe just escalate them. Probably would have been interesting to see and would have been a good storyline. And we've seen queens kind of pick fight and starts drama like Diabetti did in season 14. That would keep their storyline around. But for Amanda, they just decided to cut her. So make up however you want that storyline to end, and maybe it will at the reunion. But until then, we lost Amanda probably too soon. But that's where we're at. Next, to start the power rankings, we will have number 11, Tsunami Muse. And she's really been one of the queens that's been pretty middle of the road for the majority of the season. And I think that's starting to impact the way that she's perceived on the season. I gave her a low placement the first episode, even though everyone was safe, because she did get the lowest critiques of all the queens. And since then, she has just been consistently safe. And to be honest, I don't know if I could remember a single thing that Tsunami has done since she started on the season. I know that she said more please to Mirage's talent show, but other than that, I can't imagine or really remember what she has done. And I think that's a big drawback for Tsunami. She also has had quite a few low weeks of confessionals. We don't really know what she's thinking of the season too much or what's going on in her head, which is also hurting the way that she is being perceived. And what's interesting too about Tsunami is that she really had a chance to start some drama when Q called her out on stage as being one of the queens who should go home. And she just decided to kind of say, okay, that's fine that you said my name. If she had said something, we may have gotten more of Tsunami because then she would have more of a storyline. But at this point, all I know is that she's in the same drag house as Candy, and that's it. So I think that's why I have her at the bottom of my rankings this week. The next person that I have is Geneva Carr. And I know she won this past week and she was part of that winning team, but her track record has been all over the place. She won the first week due to the Rated Queen twist. Then she was in the bottom for 2 weeks in a row, and then she won. So that's kind of a little bit of an iconic track record, one that we probably haven't seen before. I haven't checked, but I would venture a guess to say that we haven't seen that before. The reason that I have her so low despite her winning was the fact that I think if Mirage had known the words, Geneva probably would have gone home last week. But Mirage didn't know the words and Geneva stuck around and then did a pretty great job on the most recent episode. She did, however, have 0 confessionals this past episode despite winning, which really doesn't say a lot for what the producers and editors think of Geneva, and I think it really does impact how she's going to be for the coming weeks. So I don't know where Geneva is going to go. We just need more of her and need her to continue to slay the competition like she did this last week. Another member of the team that did really well this week was Maya Iman LePage, who is my personal favorite this season. I think she's a lot of fun, and I think this week we got to see a lot of that fun Maya with her verse and her dancing. And I just want to commend her verse because it's something that we haven't seen before, with the whispering and the ad-libs and the dancing all together at the same time. I think that Maya knocked it out of the park this week. The thing that's dragging her down is her confessionals and the way that she's just perceived on the screen. She, even though she won, was given that sort of quiet edit again when she was teaching the queens the choreography, which was hilarious because that's what the judges and the producers really want you to think of Maya, is that she's very quiet. This could set her up potentially as a late season threat who comes out of her shell as the season goes on. Or if we keep getting this kind of content from Maya, I don't think she's going to go much further. But I hope that we get to see more of her because she's hilarious. She's a lot of fun. But we will see as the season goes on. In 8th place, I have Megami. And I think she was really the big winner of her group this week besides Nymphia, because she was the one that was telling us all about her team. She was the one going in and talking about the verses. She was the one talking about how she needs this in order to do well in the competition. She needs to break out. And after being picked last, she had that underdog story more so than any of the other queens on her team. So I think this win really went far for Megami. She was at the bottom of my rankings last week, but this week she jumped up to number 8. And I think it could be the start of a great arc for her and the start of her to building her confidence despite a couple of difficult weeks earlier in the season. She also had a decent amount of confessionals. She's getting more and more as time goes on, so I think she's really got a chance going forward. I think the fans aren't totally sold on Megami. I think that the perception has changed a little bit this week, hopefully, from most of the good fans. The fans that were shading her for winning are not the types of fans that we want in the drag fandom. So that's why I have her jumping up to number 8, and I hope that she continues to rise as we go. In the 7th position, I have Q. Q was somebody who was rocking it at the start of the competition. She was really in her element, winning, or coming close to winning, not winning, sorry. Coming close to winning those first 3 episodes, and then falling to the bottom in the most recent episode, which I think was a big part of her character growth, in that she was doing so well, but then she was clearly the worst among everyone in the most recent episode, which says a lot for the type of queen that she is. She was starting to get set up with that sort of delusional edit that we saw from people like Lucy LaDuca last season, in that they think they deserve more praise than they've been given. So when she fell as far this week, it was really a blow to her confidence. And among the fans, I think the consensus is that Amanda won that lip sync and that she should have stuck around over Q, despite their differences in track record. And I will say I do think Q did better than a lot of people thought she did in that initial lip sync, but still I think Amanda was probably the one that should have won despite the track records. But at the end of the day, the judges kept her, and drag fans have a pretty short attention span and a short memory. They think that what happens later in the season is way more important than what happened on week 4. So if Q continues to return to killing the competition the way that she did before, she's definitely got a shot to continue with her trajectory that she had at the very start. I do think at this point she needs to rebound, and she needs to rebound well in order to stick around, and that's why I have her dropping to 7th this week. In 6th position, I have Dawn. And Dawn's an interesting person. I think she started out really strong and has kind of sat in the middle since then. She was one of the fan favorites off the gate. She should have won the first mini challenge, with the ring camera challenge. I think she was a lot of fun and could have easily won that challenge. And her aesthetic is something that we haven't seen before on Drag Race, which really puts her at the top of the new contestants this season. But her track record has put her in the middle, basically. And that's been unfortunate because I think she's done pretty well, particularly within the most recent episode. If this was judged individually, I think she has a good chance of being in the top because despite not being a trained dancer, she did stand out among her group in a way that some of the other queens who were trained dancers didn't, which was pretty amazing for her storyline. And when it came to confessionals, we are hearing more and more from Dawn as time goes on compared to where she started. And I think she's stayed as a presence, especially if you watch the Untucked. She has stayed as a presence on the season, and that's why I think she's in this upper half. Up next, I have Morphine, who is somebody who's also floated in the middle. But this week I have her jumping to number 5 just because she's number 1 in the confessionals and she's basically the narrator of the season. She talked a lot about how she wanted to win this episode because of her background and her skill set, but that ended up not panning out for her. But we still got a lot of content from Morphine, just like we do almost every episode. I have her in 5th place because I think if she gets a win, she will rise to the top of the rankings among all the queens because of her visibility. But for now, I'm having her sitting at number 5. In 4th position, I have Plain Jane. And Plain Jane is somebody that I think has been killing the competition so far, especially among track record. She ended up in the top in the RDR Live episode last week. And she also was one of the highly rated queens on the most recent episode. I know everyone was kind of safe, but she only received praise for both her look and for her performance, and I think probably would have been in the top in the judges' eyes if it was judged individually. And when it comes to confessionals, we hear from Plain all the time. We hear from her about what she thinks of the other queens. We think about how she's doing in the competition. So she is everywhere on our screens, and even though she's the villain of the season, she's still got a lot of a trajectory, I think. And especially with Amanda going home without resolution to the storyline, fans have short-term memory and will probably forget by the end of the season. If she doesn't have any drama coming into the future weeks, I think she has a great chance of kind of turning it around and becoming somebody that the fans would be comfortable with crowning. But at this point, I've got her at number 4. I think she has a great chance of rising moving forward. At number 3, I've got my Philly girl, Safira Cristal. She's one of the people that's been performing the best in the competition. She's 3rd in track record after winning that first episode. And I put her as low in this most recent episode because she was the only one who didn't receive praise and received a negative critique other than the bottom 2. So I put her as low, but that doesn't affect her track record too much. She still got a ton of praise, and she's still a fan favorite amongst all the queens. The thing that's holding her back is the confessionals. I do think that Safira is seen as a powerful presence. She's kind of one of the seasoned queens on the season, and everybody seems to like her among the cast, which is a great thing for somebody who could become a winner. But she needs to get more screen time so that we can get to know her as a queen, as an audience. And I think that is something that's going to happen later on within the season because of the way that she's been performing. But for now, I've got her sitting at number 3. My biggest riser of the week comes from Plasma. Plasma is somebody who's interesting because she was sort of middle of the road, getting some negative critiques at the very start of the season, but she's really turned it around and received a ton of praise this week despite not winning for her performance. And I think what woke up a lot of fans and a lot of the queens this week, that even though she didn't win, she proved that as a theater queen, she can dance and she can do some other things that we haven't seen as much from some of the other theater queens as well. I think that she would do great in a lip sync as well if she had the opportunity. For now, I've got her at number 2. I think she's got a great chance of continuing her trajectory towards the crown, and she's waking a lot of people up who thought she might have been more of a middle queen. She's one of the narrators with Morphine, so we're always hearing what Plasma has to say, and I think we'll continue to hear more from her as the season goes on. And with some of those future challenges, which are right up her alley, we'll see really what Plasma can do. But it should come as no surprise who number 1 is. It's obviously Nymphia Wind. I had her number 1 last week. I think she's set up great. First queen with 2 wins on the season. I think they would have probably given her the solo win. If any of the queens had it from that winning group, they probably would have given it to Nymphia. She's not on our screens all the time with confessionals, but we do know a lot about her and her background. And I think Nymphia is a huge fan favorite, and a lot of people probably expected that when she came in with her background. Despite having some sort of shady conversations with some of the other queens, it's not affecting anything. Nymphia is amazing. Fans love her, the judges love her, and I think she's the one to beat. But at the end of the day, what do you think? Who do you think is the one that should win this new season of Drag Race? I think it's Nymphia's to lose, but Tell me if I'm wrong. I will see you next week for more power rankings.